Everyone, welcome to another episode of Independent Artists Unite Song Series. A first timer on the show. I love that. Doing the devil's work. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Scott. Appreciate you.
All the way from the great state of New Jersey.
Hey, over the pond, right?
Well, I was 22 years in New York City. So that
Okay.
was also over a smaller pond.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome, man.
But yeah, I've spent a lot of time in New Jersey, so I know the Jersey thing.
Great. A lot nicer in Denmark, I'm sure.
Well, it's turning out to
Beautiful.
be one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Awesome.
I'm sorry to say for you U.S. citizens,
Yeah. It's no offense.
but
None taken. Yeah, it's
you know. Well,
good for you.
you know what I've been thinking lately is um, it's like great change is always even positive change is preceded by great chaos, always, like historically. So the fact that it is total chaos right now, it could be the sign of good things to come.
I
That's
agree.
that's my stance.
I agree. That's a good philosophy. Yeah,
Because anything else is just too grim, you know.
exactly. You can't get
What
too
else?
wrapped up in it. And you got to stay positive, and that's all we can do, man. And just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, but I'm so glad I found you on Instagram, you know, because it's funny. I'm always like trying to like find people that I don't know and new music and everything like that. And I saw this goes to show you that just like participating in a community like pays off, you know, because I saw your little hearts here and there doing the devil's work, heart, doing the devil's work, heart, you know. And I initially I thought for some reason in my head, I think it's because I know some other um, accounts that are that not similar in name, but that kind of
Yes.
name, where I thought it was like of a like not a musician, but like kind
Yep.
of a goth meme, you know, kind of thing or something.
Understandable.
Yeah,
Totally.
and then I saw that you had this new song out, "Tear Me Down," that we're gonna talk about, and yeah, so I was so thrilled to find you, man. And
Thanks, man.
I've been on a doing the Devil's Work deep dive today. I think I've listened to every track that
Oh
you've done
wow.
so far,
Thanks.
and I
I
really like.
appreciate it.
I'm curious. How do you describe doing the devil's work, the combination of influences? Because there's certain things that came into my head, and I'm curious what you feel about it, or where you came from musically. You know.
Yeah, good question. I totally it's a very cinematic approach. You could probably tell from I use a lot of horror, related samples and stuff, and I really try to write my songs about movies in general, kind of like a summary of a movie.
Oh,
And I
really?
kind of
Oh,
get my
cool.
ideas rolling. Yeah, I kind of get my ideas rolling from like samples from a movie. I'll just look at an old horror movie. I love horror and sci-fi like you probably do, and I just
Yeah.
get ingrained and I just get an idea, from the movie, and I'm like, oh, for example, this song "Tear Me Down." I was watching Life Force, an old '80s, movie, and it was a great flick. Toby Hooper, the director, who's
Yeah.
amazing. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist. He had done Poltergeist just before he did this movie.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
kind of get
I've seen that too. So that checks one of my boxes because there's
mhm.
definitely 80s in there.
Okay.
There's definitely like an 80s
Yeah,
vibe.
and
So
I'm
yeah,
a
I'm
huge fan
curious
of.
what else. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a child of the '80s, man. I grew up in the
Yeah.
'80s like you, and your Bowie influence is awesome, and and the way you did the Hunger song, the way you took
Mm.
that, and kind of based it on that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
That's kind
Oh,
of
that's true. Yeah, we did this. Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's
that's
kind
similar
of
to
that
what you
we're
do. Yeah.
yeah, we have a lot in common there. Like that's
Oh,
kind of the
cool.
approach I take. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of I get some samples from a movie and I kind of load it into my DAW and I get some synth sounds going with my VST and try to like tell the story, of what I'm trying to convey and
Mm.
set the mood, set the tone with a lot of the synthesizers and things, and then I bring in guitars later. I'll bring in the guitars. That's kind of what I do, and then I don't really write the lyrics until the end. I don't really get the flow and an idea going until I kind of try to paint the picture through the music, and then kind of the song just writes itself. Really, I've been doing this for about a year now, this project, and it's kind of been pretty easy process. I'm just going song to song and idea to idea, and it's the songs kind of like it's just crazy. They just write themselves, and I just try to do my best to summarize, what my influences through music, and then of course my musical influences come into play. Like in this song in general, like I try to do. This is more of an EBM approach, I feel like, to this song.
Yeah. I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, with the whole, use my body. I'm like, oh, electronic body music. This is where we're going with this, and the way
Mhm.
the rolling basses were, it just kind of like painted that picture, and then I build up the tension, and they get to the pre-chorus, and I add the guitars, the chunky guitars. I tend to do a lot of the chunky guitars in the choruses. I mean, in the verses. Sorry, in the pre-choruses, and then
Mhm.
in the chorus, actually, I just try to open it up, and I'll do like open
Big
chords.
power chords. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just open the chords up and bring in a lot of pads. Like in this one, I kind of felt like it had like
Yeah.
a VNV Nation vibe with the pads.
Yeah. That's a
So
great formula, man.
yeah, I just try to
Yeah.
go that route with it, and just try to.
I,
And
I think I
obviously,
think that's part of it. That formula right there that you talk about is kind of like, yeah, because overall, what I would say like about listening to your whole catalog is that it's really enjoyable to listen to. You know
thank
what I
you.
mean? It's like sometimes as a listener, even though I love so many different things,
Hmm.
sometimes you have to work hard to listen to something, and it's like sometimes you just don't want to work hard as a listener.
Yeah,
You just want to relax
yeah,
and let
exactly.
it flow over you. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I really felt that about your catalog. That it was just like, this is just nice to listen to. Like, the verses, like you said, and then the build up, and then the open chorus, and it's just like what you expect. And it's like,
Nice, thanks. I really appreciate that.
yeah.
Yeah, I try to do a lot of singing, singy choruses, and my thing is, you sing. You have an amazing voice too. Like, just use your voice. I notice your voice is high in the mix, which I love. I love when
Yeah.
singers just go out and do their thing. And sometimes singers tend to bury their vocals in the mix a little bit. I
Hmm.
try to like work for the song, and
Yeah.
just really, to me, I was always, obviously Depeche Mode is a huge influence on me
Mm.
growing up, and like, Nine Inch Nails. You want to have those memorable singy choruses that you just kind of stick with you, and you know what I mean. And that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I
kind
hear
of the
that in your
vibe.
stuff
It's not
too.
like you're
Yeah.
trying to do a
Yeah.
commercial thing. It's just my thing is use your strengths. Use what you
Yeah.
have to your advantage. And that's kind of how I try to write.
Yeah. And
And that's it.
are you one of these people like when you're trying to work out the chorus um that at first are you kind of doing oohs and ahs and trying to find a catchy melody first, or do the lyrics come first and then they dictate the melody kind of
I am, like you said the first time, I'm a
first
melody
one, yeah.
person. And it's funny because with electronic music, you probably know it as well. It's just so easy to get in the pocket. Like it's just the
Mm,
songs just the melody just comes. There's so many different layers and facets.
mhm.
You can go off the bass, you can go off, the pads, the guitar, whatever the guitar is saying. If it's
Yeah.
din 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 tear me down and din din to the core, it just kind of came out. Like it just
Mm,
explore the things you thought before. It just kind of like flows. And then like with this chorus on this one, I kind of went a little different. I let it kick in, and I never really did a chorus like that where I held my vocal like that.
mhm.
And I'm like, let me do that's different. I try to do different things, and
Yeah.
like, what do you need? Like to hold it out, and
Yeah. Hold it out twice. You got harmony.
yeah, you gotta, yeah, and I throw the
Which is
harmonies in there.
cool.
You gotta
Yeah.
harmonize, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the harmonies do it. That's comes from the Depeche Mode. Dave and
Yeah.
Martin. The low
Yeah.
vocal, the high
Well, yeah,
vocal.
it's like that song structure, that formula they're talking about. That's very Depeche Mode too. They're like, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is the verse.
Yep,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the pre-chorus.
yep,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
yeah,
the chorus."
exactly.
And so
There's no bones about it. Let's
it's
go.
also easy to listen to Depeche Mode. You can just,
Yeah, yep,
oh yeah.
yep. And then I take so many other influences. Like there's so many. I mean, Covenant, Velvet Acid, Christ. I like a lot of heavier stuff, Suicide Commando, a lot of the aggro tech stuff. But I try to get those elements into the music,
Yeah.
and then I approach with more of a singy vibe to the vocals. And I like the heavy guitars, like the Rammstein. Like just I love heavy guitars. I always did. I was in hardcore bands, growing up, and I love metal music. Like I'm sure you like the metal stuff too, growing up, and It just,
Hey,
you know, I try to get all my influences in there, you know, and do the best I can to kind of paint the whole picture, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting too. I think for me, one of the things that like kind of it sounded 80s to me too. I was just like, why is this melody kind of sound 80s or whatever? And maybe that's just like an 80s thing. It was like, I mean, it's like with my music too, being, you know, growing up in the 80s, it's like there were melodies, you know. I mean,
Oh yeah.
everything was melodies, you know. So that like gets in there, right? You know, and the whole kind of anti-melody, you know, thing didn't come till later, you know.
Yeah. I love that. No, you're right. It's 80s was we were lucky. We were very fortunate to grow up in a time when we had, you know, MTV was in its infancy and it was still good. You had videos and you had all kinds of music. You had, you know, the
Yeah.
metal, you had rap at its infancy, which was amazing, you know, and all these great, you know, new wave, the whole new wave thing going on, you know, it
Mm.
just New Order and all these bands like that that we grew up with, you know, and just we had a
Yeah.
great time for music. We really did. And a lot to work off of as far as influence, you know, on what we do now.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. I had a similar conversation with Jeremy from Post Looperish. I don't know if you know
Okay.
him, but um he yeah, we were also talking about MTV because it's like you kind of take it for granted if you grew up in that time, but it was a very unique time where first of all MTV was showing music videos all the time.
Yes.
And then also, like you said, you could have new wave, you could have R&B, you could have total like pop, you could have heavy metal, you know, you could have like hair metal, you know, but
Yeah.
you could also have you know, you could also have like legitimate heavy metal, you know,
Yeah.
like Iron Maiden
Yeah. You
or
had the Headbangers
Judas
Ball and
Priest. Yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah, and Headbanger
Then you
Ball,
had,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so and now I'm gonna cite an influence that I
Mhm.
heard.
Okay.
Crazily enough, I may be insane.
No, go for it.
I hear just echoes here and there of ZZ Top. Is that possible?
Hey, that's possible. I love ZZ Top. Man. I love ZZ Top. That was another influence. Like you said, that's all the stuff that it was
Yeah,
so eclectic back then. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
And we grabbed so much from so many different areas, you know, that, dude, I love ZZ Top. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be like offended. Hell yeah.
There was something about the maybe on some part. Did you have like, or maybe it wasn't on this song or one of your other
Mhm.
songs, but is there like a tremolo guitar, like a wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah?
I've done some stuff with a little delay and stuff and echo and yeah and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I try to
yeah,
change it up, switch it up with the guitar sounds a little
yeah,
bit. Yeah,
yeah,
to
yeah. So
keep
that
it
reminded
interesting.
me of like Sharp Dressed Man a little bit,
Hey, that's cool, man.
and then the melody was a bit like you were kind of going da 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 da
All right.
da, and it reminded me of that Sharp Dressed Man. I was
Yep.
like, am
That's
I
cool. That
crazy?
yeah, that might be the soul coming out. You know, they're very
Yeah,
soulful in that groove, you know, that bluesy
yeah,
type of
yeah, yeah.
vibe.
The
And
bluesy stuff. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I have influenced by that. I mean, I love Elvis, and you know, and there's so many influences, man. Bruce Springsteen, and just there's so much in there in this brain, you know. And it's like,
yeah,
and the music just kind of comes out, you know, and then I just kind of go where the song takes me, you know what I mean? And I don't
yeah,
really have any like restrictions on, you know. Some people might have a particular sound they're going for. I try to like. I think do have a sound, a cohesive sound. I feel like at this point,
yeah. I
now
think
that I've
so,
been doing
but
it for about a
yeah.
year, but
Yeah, and
it's, you know,
it's a great group of elements, like you said, the EBM thing and the samples, and some of the samples are like lower, so it gives you
mhm.
like a feeling of like Sisters of Mercy or Peter Murphy or something, you
Totally love
know?
that, man.
And then your voice comes in that tenor that almost reminds me of like a grunge lead singer or something, you know, with a
Okay.
little bit of rasp in it and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool,
And
man.
then the kind of classic buildups on the guitar is like a big rock thing. And I think it's I think it's like a really great group of influences. And that's, I was like, is he doing, is this like, that's why I wanted to go back and I wanted to listen
Yeah.
to all your songs because I was like, this is a fucking great idea, man. And it is on all the songs, you know. And I
Thanks
think
so
that's
much.
yeah, yeah. I
That
think
yeah,
it's
that's
really a cool
yeah.
cohesive
People like
thing.
to pigeonhole people a lot of times, you know, and say, you know, especially in the industrial, on the gothic, type of vibe music and
Yeah, yeah.
electronic
Or
music, let's
dark
say.
wave, yeah,
Yeah, or dark wave. Like they have to like pigeonhole you, like, oh, you're EBM or you're industrial, and I think it leans more toward the industrial because of the guitars. I do a lot of the heavier
yeah.
guitars and the darker, a lot of the heavier basses and waves and stuff like that. I like to keep it that darker element, and then yeah, just let it go with the flow, wherever it takes me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I run into that idea too. I don't know if you submit to playlists or anything like that, but whenever I'm doing that, I'm literally, well, I start like with dark wave, but then I don't necessarily feel dark wave so much. I mean, I think of it as like dark synth pop, kind of like
Yes.
what I do, but it's like it doesn't really, sometimes it doesn't get picked up by synth pop, playlists.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't get picked up by dark wave. And then the last time is the first time I gave it to like just electronic
Okay.
music, and then I got like, seven playlist placements in one
Nice.
one day. It was like weird. I was like, maybe that's it. I don't know. It's so weird. I know,
That's
like I
cool.
actually on this last tour, I saw an interview with Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode. He's like, well, we're an electronic band, and I
Hmm.
was like, fuck that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I make electronic music. I mean, it is electronic music, but like you said,
Yeah.
it's that pigeonhole thing. And
Yeah.
how do you,
Well, I'll
you
give you an example. Like when you probably like when you upload to your distributor, they don't give you. I have CD Baby, which I'm not even going to go there. They're not. I'm not the happiest with them, but
yeah, well,
yeah. So you get you have to pick a genre,
yeah.
and it's electronic is always the primary genre, and then industrial becomes the secondary genre I pick. And I'm
Hmm.
like, just like it's electronic music in a general, as a basis, as the bones and the
Yeah.
structure, and then just wherever they want to put me, whatever. And I don't really submit to too many playlists. I'm so happy that you put me on your playlist. That means a lot, man. I'm
Oh
really
yeah, man.
happy
Of
about
course.
that. And
Yeah, well, I put a couple
fortunate.
others on there too. Yeah. So
Thanks, man. I'm so
I want
fortunate.
to say,
Wayward. I know you've had him on your show a couple times.
oh
Chris, he's
yeah,
great. He put
is
me on
he?
his playlist and stuff.
Okay, cool. Okay,
So
maybe that's how I found out about you then, because
yeah, it's possible. There's so many great artists that are in this, this circle that we have now going. Everybody supports everybody, and I really love it. It's a really good community going on right now.
yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah, I put in Not Dead and also
Oh, great.
No Trust. I like that one a lot too.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. I
Yeah,
really appreciate all that. That's
yeah.
good stuff, man. I really appreciate this. And this opportunity to have me on here is just you do so much for so many artists, and I just can't thank you enough,
Yeah,
really.
man. Well, I love it because I'm a fan, you know what I mean? I
Thanks.
mean, I say this all the time on this show, but I forgot how much of a fan I was because I was caught up, in the in the late 90s and early 2000s. I was so caught up in making it,
Yeah.
and going for and I had an independent deal and I'm going for a big major league and out to Los Angeles and living there and drugs and I was like I tried I realized now what I was trying the most at was becoming famous.
Hmm.
I lost the music along the way. I mean I still
Yeah.
love the music, but it's different now to come back to it. I hadn't written for 20 years,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, then I had this heart attack, and afterwards I was like, oh no,
Oh, wow.
I
So,
got to make music, and yeah, it was a great experience, because it just totally gave me hyper focus about what's important in life,
turned it around for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Great.
exactly. And so I started making music again, but it was like, oh, this is it, like
Hmm.
I love music,
Yes.
and also before when I was like gunning for stardom, I couldn't listen to other music. I was like one of those people. I was like, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna spoil my, what's my natural instincts,
Hmm.
and so I just lived in my own little bubble, and I missed all this great music. And so this time I was like, you know what? I love music, and I started finding all these independent artists that are fucking great, man. You know what I mean? And this is like the new music industry. I think there are so many awesome, with the technology allows people to make music at home and
Yes.
and put it out there. And I think it's awesome, man. And
And I
there's
think as to what
there's
you're
so
saying
much
too,
great
like
music.
Totally. And I think, and our age as well, our maturity, I think, and the technology, the fact that you're able to work by yourself and do all this or work with a collaborator that's in another state.
Yeah, man.
I had a guy named Justin from Detroit, Man Made Random. He remixed my Not Dead song. That's like
Yeah,
amazing. I've done collaborations with Agent Sinner, from Ohio. He was on my album, and we did a Cure cover. The Fascination Street. It's going to come out on a collaboration. It's so crazy. You can
yeah,
do these things now without even leaving your house.
yeah,
And
exactly.
you don't have to worry about the band and all that and
Yeah,
all the drama, like you said. I work a full-time job. I have a family, and I'm able to make the music I enjoy making, and I'm having a great time doing it. And people are listening, and it's like I'm meeting awesome people like you and all these other great people. And it's like there's no egos involved. It's just like let's have fun, and
yeah,
that's the fun part about it. I went through, like you said, in the '90s. I went through the same thing. I thought I was going to get big with my hardcore band, and I was in a band called Handful of Dust, and we did a lot of touring and stuff. We didn't get signed, but we had a 7-inch out, we
mhm,
thought we were gonna, do it and everything. And sometimes the egos get involved. There's too many hands in the,
yeah,
pot, and it just creates
totally.
a mess,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so this is the fun time. This is the fun stuff for us.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And and two, there's something about it. Like I also I don't listen to big bands anymore. I have to say, over these last 5 years, I listen to them less and less because I prefer an independent artist that's making music at home because it's coming like from their heart right into the recording device. And when you get so famous, you get so famous and you get rich, you don't have that anymore. You lose that along the way. And
Yep.
there needs to be some suffering, unfortunately, I
Yes.
think to really open your heart and just like give it away to people,
Oh
and
yeah.
you just don't you just don't have that so much when you've been a successful, touring
Yep.
act
It's
or
not as
touring
genuine. Yeah.
stadiums for 20 years,
Hmm.
it's yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
it's an
It's
interesting
definitely,
thing.
and you get shunned a lot too. I think by a lot of those bigger people in the industry, whether they're producers or artists, because you are doing it on your own at home. And oh, he's using a a Scarlett, a Focusrite Scarlett audio interface. I can't believe he's using that. Let me tell you something. The song is the song. You could write a good song, on an acoustic guitar. You know what I mean? Like a song is a song, and the fact that I think it's making us better producers, the fact that we do it on our own or with other collaborators, and we were able to get together and do these different these it's just amazing. Really,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
it just shows you that it's the talent, it's the artistry, it's being an artist, and that's what it is truly.
yeah, man. I mean, it's amazing the thing with I mean, especially too for people like us that grew up when you had to save to record in a studio,
Oh yeah.
and like you said, you certainly have to be in the same studio in order to collaborate with someone. But yeah, like now my producer, James K. Ultra, a pain in the ass. He's in Virginia. I'm in I'm in
I
Denmark,
love that.
and then I've done these collaborations with the Stave Church, who's in Texas, you know,
That's all.
Ceremony Shadows, who's in Oregon, I think. I
Wow.
think they're in Oregon, yeah. I'm singing on their latest song, doing backing vocals, and Burnt Log from Scotland. Yeah, just like people from all over,
It's
and
amazing,
it's a
really.
cool
it's
experience. Yeah,
it's so cool. It's just yeah, it's crazy the way you're able to do things in the production, and the way you're able to do it kind of fast too. And like you said, save money. It's I don't have a lot of money. That's why I use a lot of VSTs and plugins, because hardware is expensive. I have
oh
some
yeah,
hardware. I do love hardware, but then you get into that argument. A lot of people are like, oh, it's not analog, it's digital, and it's to me, I think
I
these
know,
VSTs are so well honed now, and the
I know.
production just comes out okay. I am not the best producer in the
I
world, of
think so
course,
too. Yeah, but
but you do the
I'm with
best you
you.
can.
Yeah,
You do the best you can with the tools you have,
yeah,
and
but they're so good. The
really, I
technology is so
agree.
good. I mean, I'm
Yep.
total analog guy coming
Yeah.
from analog, and I personally can't hear difference.
Oh
I
yeah.
know people say they do, but it's
like this song in general, Tear Me Down. I got this new VST plugin called Thorn, this synthesizer, and it's a $40 plugin. You know what I mean? And it had so many awesome layers and basses, and just I just it blew my mind. And I used other VSTs obviously too in the process, but it's just you have so many tools at your disposal. It's like having like I have like 15, 18 synthesizers in my arsenal now.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
take up a whole room. I love when people, don't get me wrong, it's so impressive when someone has the money and the technology, and they're able to to set all that up and do all the hands-on stuff. I'm really a fan of that as well. But for me, monetarily, money-wise, I don't have a lot of money, so try to do the best I can with the tools I have.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you came from punk rock too, though, because I always say this is the new punk rock. I mean, what's more punk rock than saying "fuck you" record labels?
Totally.
I'm doing it in my living
Yeah,
room. You know,
totally. Exactly. It's awesome. I love it.
too. A good example of a big band is, and now I can't remember what song it was though. But do you know that song by Blur, where they actually use like a Casio keyboard, like
Oh,
the
yeah,
the,
boys
the
and girls,
actual
maybe.
melody that's in it.
Yeah, yeah. Might have been that boys, you were girls, you were girls. Yeah, yeah. They
Oh
were
shit,
great.
sorry. That was my alarm to say that we need to record this. So I had some challenges with the times today.
Oh, no problem.
We
No
we
problem.
just came. I don't. This is like we just sprang forward last night in Europe. So
Oh,
it,
okay.
it takes me like a week to get that straight when you've changed from at
Oh, yeah. It's
a
definitely an
different
adjustment.
week than the U.S. Like why? Come on.
It's crazy.
Um, Yeah. So what are the future plans for doing the devil's work? Are you going to put together another album or
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of finishing up my second album. It's going to be called Invasion. I have about two more tracks to finish, and then I'll be out probably, hopefully by the summer, I'm thinking. And then I'm
uh
trying to get my live show together. I have,
oh cool.
yeah, I actually have two friends of mine that are in another. I play bass in another band called Cinema Star, an indie rock band.
Oh
And
nice.
yeah, my friends Ken and Randy from the band are one's gonna play guitar for me live, and the other's gonna play the synthesizers and run the
Oh
show in the back
cool.
there, and I'll
Yeah.
just sing. So
Oh
I mean, I
nice.
could play guitar live too, but I kind of don't want to. I want to focus on the vocals.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my plans for going forward, and getting that rolling this year. So that's pretty much that's what I
Oh,
got
that's
going on.
exciting.
I've been doing
And
single to single and going that way.
yeah, and for the album, every song is based on a film as well.
Yeah, I kind of been going with that vibe. I mean, that's kind of like the way I set the project up, really. It was just the basis. I always loved bands that sampled, like Ministry and just, Frontline Assembly. I mean, I can go, the list goes on,
Yeah,
Wumpscut, all
yeah.
these bands that just, use samples, and it just sets such a dark mood for me. And it just helps me write the song. It just gets me in the zone, and just,
Yeah.
it's just crazy, like this
And what
song. Go ahead.
what can I'm just wondering, can you share with us some more of the films that you're drawing inspiration from, or is that a
Oh yeah,
secret until album time?
totally. Yeah, no, totally. Like for instance, "Temptation Pleases." That was another single I put out. That's going to be on the new album as well. Well,
Yeah,
I just put out singles and then I kind of compile them and add some. I
yeah.
put out like three more new tracks and thing. That
That's what
was
I'm doing
about.
here too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the way to do it, right? It's like the easiest formula, really. So that song really was from. I took my influence from Salem's Lot. I love that movie growing up. Toby Hooper again,
Yeah, yeah.
amazing director. Like that movie for me was classic. And I used
Mm,
the samples from there. Is your faith enough? I just throw away your cross. I used all those samples from that, and it just Temptation Pleases was like about the vampire, coming in and giving into the temptation. The vampires,
mm.
they're so attractive, they're so alluring, right? They
Yeah, yeah,
suck
yeah.
us in, and that's kind of where I went with that song, and I mean, yeah, the list goes on. I mean, No Trust was about. I wrote that about the movie The Thing. John
Oh,
Carpenter.
nice.
Yeah, I love John Carpenter. So I took samples from those. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. And I know I'm human. That's all from the movie. And I kind of wrote, Don't Tell Me Lies. We won't survive. That's kind of like how they were all lying to each other. Whether they
Mm,
were infected or not. By
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of, it's cool how if you kind of get into, I've actually started one of my with my posts. I'm doing a song called "Fades to Gray," and it's about the picture of Dorian Gray, the
Oh,
movie, and
nice.
I love that movie too, growing up. And
Yeah.
so I kind of like started putting, this is the song that this is what influenced the song, and I did it with this one. I kind of mentioned the Life Force movie just to kind of give people an idea and kind of
Right.
get them in
Right.
my mind space, in my head space
Yeah.
about where I'm at with it and how I write things, and just to kind of show them how I'm painting the picture,
Yeah.
and then kind of also music's open to interpretation. So I might be writing it about this movie, but the lyrics could be about anything you're going through. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty of music, and the art of it, right? That's the
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah. And being inspired by things too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, well, it's cool, man. I love that. It's like your mu I think that's why like it was so enjoyable for me to hear because the group of musical influences, and then maybe, you know, just subconsciously the film references and stuff, of that age as well. Yeah, man, it's a really like enjoyable brew, man.
Thanks.
So,
Thank you.
I'm a
Thank
fan.
you.
And
Awesome. I really
yeah, and
appreciate that.
thanks for coming on here today, man.
I really appreciate having me,
A
Scott.
joy to get to know you, man. And we'll
You too.
definitely let's do another show when the album comes out.
Definitely. I'd
Yeah.
love that.
All
Thank
right,
you
man.
so much
I'll
for the
be
opportunity.
supporting you on the Instagram here.
You got it.
See you, man.
Thanks so much. Take